Hello everyone. Hello. This is the subject that we're going to talk about today. I trust and hope everybody is staying warm. I trust and hope everybody is staying warm. This is a young lady. Well, you may want to put quotations around the lady part. Her name is Erin Caffey, and what she did or allegedly has done is what I want to call the unspeakable. Shout out to Annie Elise for this. Let's get into it.
1st, 2008, a quiet home in Alba, Texas, became the scene of an unthinkable crime. Just after 3 a.m., multiple gunshots were fired inside the Caffey family home. And when the smoke cleared and the fire was extinguished, Penny Caffey and her two youngest sons, Matthew and Tyler, were dead. Penny's husband, Terry Caffey, had also been shot 5 times, and he had just been left inside this burning home. Yet somehow, he survived. Now, at first, it looked like this violent home invasion gone horribly wrong. The house had been set on fire, this attack was very quick, it was brutal, it was targeted. But as the investigators began digging into the timeline and the people closest to the family, the case took a very disturbing turn. Because the people responsible for this, they weren't strangers. And the plan, it didn't start that night. At the center of it all was 15-year-old Erin Caffey, the couple's daughter, and a very secret relationship that her parents had desperately tried to stop. And what unfolded next, it would reveal a plot that was driven by obsession, manipulation, and a decision that permanently destroyed a family from the inside out. Hey guys, I'm Annie Elise. This is 10 to Life, and today we are reopening the case of Erin Caffey. On March 1st,
I'll be right
2008,
back,
two
y'all.
men broke into a home in Alba, Texas, with a mission to execute a horrific killing spree that left two young children and their mother dead. The only survivors were 16-year-old Erin Caffey and her father, Terry Caffey. Charles Dickerson was the only officer on duty in this small town on March 1st, 2008, when a call came in to the Rains County Sheriff's Office just after 4:30 a.m.
911, what's the address of your emergency?
This is Tommy Gaston. I've got a man that's been shot out here at my house.
Okay, so he's been shot?
Yes.
Alright, sir, I have a few questions that I need to ask you, okay? We're going to get you an ambulance. I need you to stay on the line with me, okay? Are you with the patient now?
Yes.
How old is he?
He's 41.
Is he conscious?
Yes.
And is he breathing?
Yes.
Okay. When did this happen?
I don't know, just a little bit ago. And we've also got a house on fire out here.
And the house is on fire?
The caller stated that there had been a shooting at the Caffey residence. Officer Dickerson quickly headed along US 69 and turned down the road that led through the woods to the Caffey's property. He spotted an orange glow in the distance, and as he drove nearer, he could see that the house was engulfed in flames. The house appeared to have been burning for quite some time. Officer Dickerson radioed to the dispatcher to send out the county's volunteer fire department. He then sped down the road to the closest neighbor's house, Tommy Gaston, where that 911 call originated from. And as he arrived, Tommy looked relieved. Just sprawled across his living room floor lies Terry Caffey, shot 5 times, once in the head, twice near the right shoulder, and 2 more times in the back. He was covered in blood, wearing a shirt, pajama pants, no shoes, and a single wet sock. Terry had miraculously crawled for over an hour, 500 yards from his home to his neighbor's home, seeking help. During his journey, though, he fell into a creek where he almost drowned. But he was resilient and he decided to keep going. He needed to get to safety. When Terry was finally well enough to speak, the story that he told about what had happened to him, his wife Penny, and their kids, Erin, Matthew, and Tyler, it was absolutely devastating.
And I realized quickly somebody's standing over shooting us. But everything was happening so quickly, me and Penny both were just screaming. But I could hear somebody standing over me reloading the gun, and I'm laying face down on the floor. And I just knew in a minute this was going to be it. They're going to finish me off. I remember saying, God, just please be with my family and make it quick. I just saw the muzzle, and the smell of gunpowder. It was so loud. I remember that. It was just totally engulfed. I mean, it was just, I can remember hearing windows explode out. It was just intense heat and smoke, and I couldn't get upstairs to the kids. And I was forced back into the bedroom, and I knew I was trying to get to the bathroom on the other side, so I climbed over the bed, trying to get away from the smoke and the flames, and when I fell on the other side of the bed, that's when I found Penny. And one look at her, I knew she's already gone. So I climbed out the bathroom window. I didn't care if I lived or died. As a matter of fact, I wanted to die. But I knew that if I died out there in the woods, that there's a good chance they may never find out who did this.
You heard Terry say that his biggest fear was the police never finding out who committed this horrific crime against his family. But the truth about the identity of the killers, it would turn out to be just as devastating as the crime itself. Now, to understand why, we really need to understand who the Caffeys were as people.
New Year, same extra value meals at McDonald's. So now get 2 snack wraps, plus fries, and a medium soft drink for just $8.
For limited time only. Prices and participation may vary. Prices may be higher in Hawaii, Alaska, and California, and for delivery.
You're an unnatural beast with natural glitter under your feet, yeah. At least in your box inside, no more dust all over the place. Everybody without clay, say meow. World's best cat litter for the world's best cat.
The Caffey family was a very well-loved family in their small little town of Alba, Texas. The town has a population of around 500 people. It's located in East Texas, about 45 miles northwest of Tyler. The Caffey family was a close, tight-knit family. Penny Caffey, the mother, homeschooled her 3 children, Erin, Matthew, and Tyler. They lived on a beautiful piece of land that was encapsulated with tall trees and brush alongside. In the middle of their land, deep in the woods, sat a modest cabin along a 1-lane gravel road. Penny played the piano at Miracle Faith Baptist Church, and her husband Terry was a home health aide and a lay preacher, which is a preacher who is not formally ordained and does not hold a formal university degree in theology. Their oldest daughter, Erin, was 16 at the time of this horrific incident. She's blonde-haired and was widely known for her gorgeous singing voice, which showcased in gospel solos at the Miracle Faith Baptist Church on Sundays. Amazing grace, how sweet. When she wasn't singing or working on her schoolwork, she was car hopping at the Sonic in town. Erin had 2 brothers. Matthew, known as Bubba, was in the 7th grade, and Tyler was in the 4th grade. All of the children were shy, but very well-mannered. But Erin was the least reserved of the 3.
Okay.
Faith was the cornerstone of the Caffeys' lives. They attended Bible study on Wednesday nights and church every single Sunday, and set aside several hours each week to rehearse different gospel songs. Terry and Penny first crossed paths at a revival meeting in Garland, Texas, when she was just 21 years old and he was 24 years old. Their shared strong Baptist faith was a unifying force throughout their lives. A polished cedar plank hung above their driveway bearing the inscription, "The Caffeys," Joshua 24:15. This verse, which Terry had memorized, served as a constant reminder of their decision to follow a path of righteousness, and their children shared this passion of faith. Erin was often so overwhelmed with emotion while singing her Sunday church solos that she would break down in tears, leading her to pause in the middle of a verse to compose herself. Now, Erin was a very cute girl. She was petite and thrived on attention. Boys would often go to the church just to see her. At her job, she was the only employee who would deliver the orders while wearing the roller skates at Sonic. boys would gravitate towards Erin, while others saw her as hopelessly naive. One of Erin's coworkers stated that a lot of guys flirted with Erin, and she would just smile and blush. But her parents, Terry and Penny, were very protective of their children, even pulling her out of public school due to an incident that had happened. When Erin was 13, they had moved to Alba from another town to be closer to Miracle Faith Baptist, where they both served as the church's youth ministers. When Erin and her brothers were enrolled in their new schools, she was in 8th grade and now attending Rains Junior High. Erin was recently diagnosed with ADD and lagged behind her classmates. A girl had begun to show interest in Erin and had actually kissed her in the hallway. So the Caffeys, upon hearing this news, abruptly pulled all of their children out of school, and their mother Penny began to teach them a Bible-based curriculum at home. Today's episode of 10 to Life is brought to you by Wild Grain. And honestly, this is one of those things that just makes everyday life feel a little bit more elevated. See, Wild Grain is the first bake from frozen subscription box for sourdough breads, artisanal pastries, fresh pan. You don't have to pass it off as your own, but if you have like sourdough friends who are all about that life, you could definitely bring a Wild Grain sourdough bread and pass it off as your own if you wanted to. Be like, oh, look, little me, no, sure. And what I really love is just how simple and clean. Wild hogs in the brush. Similar to most of his friends, he was very skilled with firearms. After graduation, he intended to enlist for active duty. He had never faced any legal trouble and did not have a history of any major disciplinary issues at school. And others were aware that it was very easy to get him fired up. Although Charlie was prone to impulsiveness, he generally managed to avoid physical confrontations by simply walking away from them. So during the fall, Charlie frequently visited that Sonic to see Erin. A few weeks after Halloween, he summoned the courage to ask her out on a date, and she was immediately drawn to him, and Charlie appeared equally smitten. According to Dion Kip Jr., a friend of Charlie's, he was completely head over heels for Erin and believed that she was his soulmate. Erin's parents, however, were not the biggest fan of Charlie. Then one day at church during one of the fellowship meetings, one of the adults had actually walked up on Erin and Charlie Wilkerson making out behind the church. So Terry and Penny were deeply ashamed of Erin's actions and separated the two teenagers during all gatherings that continued to go forward at Miracle Faith Church. She did not want Erin anywhere near Charlie. But despite the Caffey's strict restrictions on their alone time together and not allowing them to leave the house alone, the two teenagers still managed to spend a considerable amount of time together. Charlie was over at Erin's house often. They would eat dinner together and then go out back and build bonfires with her brothers. But like clockwork, when 9 p.m. came around, the Caffeys made sure that Charlie was already heading out the door. Then Erin would immediately call Charlie, get on the phone, and talk to him until her parents made her hang up around 10 p.m. December, Erin begged her parents to go back to public school. Her brothers had already returned to public school earlier in the fall after Bubba, who was 13, expressed how much he missed his friends. So the Caffeys were willing to comply with Erin's request and allowed her to go back to school before the holiday season so that Penny could have more time to earn additional income. So Erin enrolled as a freshman, and she and Charlie were now constantly together. They ate lunch and walked side by side through the halls, and occasionally they would sneak away to Erin's truck to mess around a little bit. Classic teenagers who are just enthralled and obsessed with each other and feeling like they are absolutely in love. The Caffey's rules became a little bit more lenient, and Terry had decided to allow Erin and Charlie to go out to dinner every now and then, with the promise that they would return no later than 9:30 p.m. However, they would often just go to a friend's house where they could be alone together, and after Christmas, they had sex for the first time. One night, Charlie stopped his car on a country back road and got down on one knee. He presented Erin with his grandmother's engagement ring, which he referred to as a promise ring. It wasn't a formal proposal, but it was his way of expressing his commitment to Erin. But a few days later, Penny noticed the ring on Erin's finger and ordered her to give it back. And Terry was becoming increasingly uneasy with the speed of the relationship between Charlie and Erin. So after that, the Caffeys were seeing red flags, and they restricted Erin and Charlie's time together to once a week, and always under their supervision. which Erin was very angry with her parents for this and confided in her aunt that she had intentions of actually leaving with Charlie as soon as she turned 17. So the tension between Erin and her mother was increasing, and at one point, Erin called Charlie in tears, telling him that Penny had hit her during one of their heated arguments. In February, Penny caught Erin talking on the phone after her curfew to Charlie. This resulted in Erin being grounded and having her car keys and phone taken away. For several weeks, her parents had to drive her to and from school, and worst of all, from Erin's perspective, her weekly visits with Charlie were now completely suspended. So all of this is starting to escalate and starting to reach a boiling point. Erin feels that her parents are completely taking her away from Charlie, the love of her life, her soulmate, the person she is destined to be with, and they just keep getting in the way. They keep pulling us away from each other. I can't see you as much. I can't talk to you as much. They don't want us to be together. They don't know our love. They don't understand our love. So as this continues to escalate, Erin persistently began to discuss the idea of killing her parents with Charlie, stating,
What the hell? How the hell does that even compute in your mind to take out your parents? Number one, I don't know how that computes in somebody's mind. Number two, I'm glad that's, you know, ew. Let's
it was
continue.
their only solution to being together. Her talk about it was frequent, both in school and outside of school, with a fellow classmate overhearing her mention the plan during a lunch period in mid-February. Charlie, who had just turned 18 that month, was determined to be with Erin and was willing to do anything to make her happy. His father used to tease him by saying he had lost puppy dog syndrome, meaning that he was always trying to...
This is what happens when you are young, dumb, and impulsive. This is what happens when you are young, dumb, and impulsive. Let's continue.
help those in need. Erin was someone he wanted to save and someone he loved, and Charlie even confided in several of his friends his plans to kill Erin's parents. Just 2 days before the killings, Charlie confided in a friend that he wished he could impregnate Erin as a way of forcing her parents to just accept him. Despite this, Erin remained resolute in her belief that they needed to get rid of her parents. They were the obstacle from their happily ever after. She argued that having a baby at such a young age was just not an option for her. She didn't want to be a mom yet, and that as long as her parents were alive, she and Charlie could not be together. At Miracle Faith Church, even the members began to pick up that something was not right within the Caffey household. Penny became distant and reserved for the majority of February and declined an invitation to attend a women's church retreat, something that she would never usually turn down, and she stated that she wanted to spend more time with her family. Erin appeared detached and inattentive during any church event as well. Where she once was somebody singing and moved to tears by her faith, she was now detached. Then at her grandfather's funeral, the pastor's wife, Rebecca McGahee, noticed a change in Erin's demeanor. He had died of a heart attack that month, and the Caffey family all performed Amazing Grace in his honor. But Erin's singing was lackluster and lacked her usual passion. This concerned Rebecca, who believed that something was spiritually wrong with Erin, and I quote, her anointing had lifted. On February 27th, 3 days before the killings, the Caffeys insisted that Erin end her relationship with Charlie. This was after Penny had visited the local library and followed her sister's advice to view Charlie's MySpace profile, which contained statements about having sex, getting drunk, being promiscuous, and just being, a typical reckless teenage boy. To their surprise, when they demanded this breakup, Erin didn't argue, and instead tearfully admitted that she had been considering ending things with Charlie for a while, but was unsure of how to do so. Before the family left for Bible study, Erin promised that she would end her relationship with Charlie, which this was great news to her parents. They felt like finally she was recognizing this wasn't a good situation for her, it wasn't the healthy path that they wanted her to be on, that she was in agreement, it wouldn't be an argument, and they were going to be able to forge ahead. But as you've probably guessed by now, that is sadly not what happened. Instead, just 3 days later, Charlie stormed into the Caffey's home, and he committed one of the most brutal crimes that this small Texas town had ever seen.
I knew immediately why he was there. He was to get revenge because we made him break up with our daughter.
When you play cash pop from the South Carolina Education Lottery.
I heard my son Matthew cry out. He said, Charlie, why are you doing this? No, Charlie, no, please, why are you doing this? And then I'm trying to get up. And then all of a sudden, bam, bam, I heard the gunshot. So I realized Matthew's been shot. So I managed to get to my feet. I'm trying to get out the bedroom door to get upstairs to my children. But by this time, the house is totally engulfed. I'm hit by a wall of flames, forced back into my bedroom, and there's Penny laying there. And when I saw her, I immediately knew she was gone, because not only did they come in and shoot, but he also came in with this samurai-type sword, and she would nearly be decapitated. And I guess it's just the shock that I'm in, because I'm thinking, if I could just get to my neighbors, somehow we can fix this. We can get them out. Everything's going to be okay. And I'm not thinking rational. I just got to get help.
Yeah, I wasn't going to be on
By now,
camera,
the
but
property
screw
was
it.
covered with first responders, investigators, and other law enforcement personnel. The ambulance was about to pull away from Tommy's house when another sheriff investigator climbed inside. Terry, who was straining to catch his breath, muttered out, "I don't think I'm going to make it." The officer kneeled down and asked him some questions, where Terry was able to tell him that Charlie Wilkinson was his daughter's boyfriend, and that he and his wife had recently demanded that Erin stop seeing him. Kurt Fisher, another chief deputy that arrived at the scene, shook his head when he heard Charlie's name. His boys were friends with Charlie. They were seniors together and fished and went four-wheeling often together. Officer Fisher told the detective that he had even spotted Charlie's car parked outside of Matthew Wade's trailer while driving to the crime scene. Matthew Wade was a few years older than Charlie and would often provide his home as a party house for the teens while supplying them with alcohol as well. So officers sped to that rundown blue single-wide trailer. No lights were on in the house. A random teenager answered the door and agreed to let the police officers in. Stepping over piles and piles of dirty clothes and beer cans, he walked into Matthew Wade's room, where he and his girlfriend were laying asleep. They continued down the hall to another room, where they found Charlie, lying on a mattress, awake, wearing only blue jeans, with a semi-automatic handgun on the floor beside him. Officer Fisher yelled at Charlie to put his hands up, and he led Charlie outside in handcuffs, reading him his Miranda rights and informing him that he was going in and going to be questioned. Officer Fisher informed him that the Caffey family had been shot and killed, and asked if he had anything to do with it. Charlie stated that he didn't, and that he had gotten drunk that night and passed out. And as all of this was happening, another deputy had gone inside to grab Charlie a shirt and his cowboy boots, and as he grabbed the boots, he noticed that they had blood spatter on them. As the sun rose, the fire was still burning on that house. The firefighters had been struggling for several hours to put out the flames, and by now, the house had burned down to the studs. They still hadn't even been able to pull out the bodies yet. Search warrants for the trailer were obtained by the police, and they went back to scour for any evidence that they could find that would tie Charlie to this crime scene. In the living room was a camouflage purse with Erin Caffey's driver's license in it. They searched the back bedroom where Charlie was found. There was no overhead light, but the windows were covered with blankets, so it was kept very dark in there. When one of the officers ripped the blanket off the window, he saw shell casings scattered across the carpet, a case of ammunition, a black and white Western shirt, and a used condom. Near the closet, he lifted up a blanket that was piled on the floor and saw blonde hair. A girl was sitting with her back to the wall in the fetal position. Officer Fisher drew his gun and demanded that this girl show him her hands. He asked her what her name was, and she said Erin Caffey. When he asked her how she'd gotten there, she acted confused and said, "I don't know. Where am I?" Erin was transported to the Hopkins County Memorial Hospital in Sulphur Springs for a full medical evaluation. One of the detectives recommended that the chief of police, Shanna Sanders, from the Rains Independent School District, conduct an interview with Erin in the hospital's trauma room. This chief of police, Shanna Sanders, was known for being approachable, was well acquainted with many of the high school students as well. The sheriff's deputy, Serena Booth, was also present during this interview. Erin was considered a potential victim who may have been kidnapped after these murders. So with a gentle demeanor, Shanna questioned Erin about what she remembered. Erin spoke hesitantly and softly, giving limited information.
Erin, you said that you woke up and smoke was everywhere, is that right? And you said that 2 guys were with swords. Are you okay? Tell me again what they told you to do. Where were you at when you first saw them?
I was in his house. That was on his list. And then that's the last thing I remember until this morning I guess with the cops. Where we had the I couldn't even remember where I was.
Despite being teary at the beginning of the interview, Erin showed very little emotion. When Sanders asked if there was anything else that she wanted to add, Erin whispered, "They're coming after me." Virginia Daly, Erin's maternal grandmother, had come to tell her that her father had somehow lived through this extremely brutal attack. 2 officers felt horrible for Erin. They stayed by her side for 5 hours until she was discharged from the hospital, then offered to take her and her grandparents to the ICU at East Texas Medical Center in Tyler to see her father, all the while just telling Erin how tough she is. During the same time, Charlie was being interviewed by Detective Allman and Texas Ranger John Vance at the sheriff's office in Erin. Charlie, who realized he was in serious trouble, was asked by the detective to give a full account of the events from the previous night. The investigation was already starting to reveal discrepancies as Charlie was being questioned, because now there was a survivor, Terry Caffey, identifying him as one of the attackers. It's a new year, and if you're trying to get back to feeling like yourself again, whether that means losing weight in 2026 or just kind of feeling evidence behind. And as Charlie was explaining his willingness to fulfill Erin's request, he told law enforcement, "I don't have a conscience. I joined the Army to carry out any task without question." According to Charlie, he and Wade entered the Caffey home through the front door, which was left unlocked by Erin while she and Bobby remained in the car. Carrying a .22 caliber pistol and 2 samurai swords, they moved swiftly
The
towards the
hell?
house. Charlie made his way to Terry and Penny's bedroom on the first floor and shot them with his pistol until it jammed. He then passed the weapon to Wade, who resolved the issue and fired 2 additional shots. Charlie then re-entered the home and slit Penny's throat to confirm her death. The noise of the gunfire woke Bubba and Tyler, who cried out for their parents and then barricaded themselves in Erin's room. Charlie went up the stairs and told the boys to get out of Erin's room and go back into their own beds. He said that they were frightened and he couldn't bear to look at them. In response to this, Bubba attempted to defend himself by kicking Charlie. Wade, who was still downstairs, fired a shot from his .22 caliber pistol, striking Bubba in the face as he and Tyler stood on the balcony. According to Charlie, he and Wade had separated after Bubba's death, with Wade going upstairs to take care of Tyler. Charlie mentioned that he was unable to bring himself to kill the young boy and became emotional as he described Wade's actions to the detectives. He stated that he watched as Wade repeatedly stabbed Tyler until he no longer moved.
Dang.
Through tears, Charlie expressed his regret and disbelief that the innocent child had died, questioning why it had happened.
You thought it bad, right?
Yeah.
Did you feel so good?
No.
I told my she did her day to go.
After the murders, he and Wade took a suitcase from Erin's room that she had packed prior to the events, which Charlie says she was very pleased about. She smiled apparently, telling them, "I'm so glad it's over." The 2 of them went back to the house to retrieve the lockbox. Erin had provided Charlie with the combination which he used to open it. According to Charlie, they took $375 and some change, along with items from Terry's wallet and Penny's purse. To cover their tracks, they set fire to furniture, clothing, and bed sheets using their pocket lighters before making a quick escape to the Caffey house, which is now fully engulfed in flames. The four of them drove around for a while on back roads to gather their composure and blow off steam. Wade then dropped Erin and Charlie off at the trailer, where the two of them had sex. The investigation progressed rapidly on Saturday afternoon, with the detectives discovering that Erin's toxicology test, which was performed to check for the presence of drugs such as rohypnol and GHB that can cause memory loss, came back negative. Additionally, she showed no signs of having inhaled smoke, nor did she ever even smell like smoke at all. Bobby Johnson was picked up by Officer Fisher near the restaurant where she worked as a dishwasher, and Wade was pulled over while driving her car. At the sheriff's office, Bobby initially pretended not to know anything, but once the officers informed her that Wade and Charlie were both in custody, she admitted to what she knew. Wade, who initially kept quiet, finally broke down and confessed under the detectives' persistent questioning. Both of their details were completely consistent with Charlie's. Wade showed absolutely zero remorse and nonchalantly described the murder of the two boys. As the conversation came to an end, he revealed a detail that Charlie had omitted from detectives.
Anybody say anything in the car after y'all left the house? What?
Erin said, holy shit, that was awesome.
Holy shit, that was awful.
As the suspects were being interrogated at the Emory Sheriff's Office, Erin's grandparents were en route to that hospital in Tyler with Chief Sanders and Deputy Booth as escorts. However, their journey was interrupted when Chief Fisher called Sanders on his cell phone to inform him that Erin had been implicated in the Caffey murders and needed to be taken into custody. So Sanders pulled over into a parking lot and the Dailies followed. She informed them of the situation and requested that Erin step out of the car. Virginia Daly became extremely distressed and grabbed Erin's face, demanding to know if she had any involvement in the murders. Erin began crying, stating that she had no part in this. One officer stated, "After everything we had heard, I was picturing a monster, for lack of a better word. Here was someone who had dreamed up a scheme to murder her family and manipulated people into carrying out her plan. And then in walks this tiny, meek, blonde-headed girl who couldn't fight her way out of a wet paper sack." Erin was transferred to the Juvenile Detention Center in Greenville, where she was placed under arrest on charges of capital murder.
My sister told me that Erin's been arrested for involvement in the murders. And when I heard that, I just lost it. I remember grabbing at IVs and tubes that were in me, trying to pull them out.
What did we do with our hand smash burger made to order with Angus beef? We made an entire lineup. Made our all-American smashers, made with classic ingredients to make it our...
After being shot, losing his wife and his two sons in the most horrific way possible, and learning that his own daughter was involved, Terry still made the miraculous decision to move forward with forgiveness.
Of course, they were all blaming one another. The detectives were saying Erin was the mastermind, that she was the evil one. But none of that really mattered to me because I chose that I needed to forgive them. And forgiveness isn't always easy.
Twice a week, Terry would make the journey to Greenville to visit his daughter. Although he was filled with questions he desperately wanted to ask her, he couldn't. Erin's lawyer had informed him that their conversations were being recorded and anything that she said could be used against her in court. So Terry would sit across from Erin, the only surviving member of his family, and talk about mundane things, such as the weather. Visiting his daughter in the Juvenile Detention Center was a painful experience for Terry, of course, but he felt it was necessary to be near his only surviving child. Erin appeared to be fragile and stressed, dressed in her orange jumpsuit. Despite the heartache of their meetings, Terry made sure to tell Erin that he loved her before leaving every single visit. During their conversations, he only dared to ask her one significant question. The thought weighed heavily on him, and it was a question that haunted him more than any doubts about her guilt. And that question was, were your mother and I good parents? He asked her this during their visit, seated on opposite sides of the plexiglass partition. Erin, with tears welling in her eyes, reassured him, yes, you are the best parents anyone could ask for. Due to the intricate nature of 4 capital murder cases in a small rural community, The Texas Attorney General's office was approached to help the Rains County District Attorney's office in prosecuting these 4 accused individuals. Assistant Attorney General Lisa Tanner, who was known for her tough and relentless approach in the courtroom, was tasked with bringing the 4 defendants to justice. With her extensive experience as a trial lawyer and her record of putting 4 men on death row in her 18-year career, the Texas Attorney General's office believed that she was the ideal person to assist the Rains County District Attorney in prosecuting this very complex case. The motive behind the crime was elusive and complicated. Despite the fact that Charlie and Wade had been consuming alcohol, there were no signs of drug usage. Furthermore, Erin's desire to have her parents murdered didn't make sense, as she had not suffered any abuse by them. In fact, a psychological evaluation conducted by the court failed to uncover any evidence of abuse in the Caffey household. And although the Caffeys might have been, a little overly strict in their religion, such as that time when they reacted in such an extreme way to another girl having romantic feelings for Erin, Erin herself later admitted that her parents never physically abused her like she originally claimed.
When I look back on it now, this was all just stupid. I mean, for what? They weren't beating me, they weren't starving me to death. I had it made. Daddy bought me a car, let me have a job.
Well, Lisa Turner had no doubt at all that Erin
If you had it made, why did you do it?
murders, stating that her phone records is what really led her to believe this. Stating, "When I saw the phone records, I realized that it didn't matter if a single one of the other defendants testified against her. We were still going to be able to convict her of capital murder." From 11:46 p.m. to 12:48 a.m. the evening of the murders, Erin called Charlie 6 times from inside the Caffey house. But the kicker was that from 1:22 a.m. to 1:58 a.m., when she called Charlie 7 more times, that matched what Charlie had told them, which was when she kept calling saying, "Where are you? It's taking so long. I'll keep the dog quiet. Get back over here," showing that she was the driving force behind this. In June, Lisa Tanner met with Terry Caffey and presented him with the phone records. She wanted to clarify why the prosecutors were requesting the court to classify Erin as an adult. If the court granted the request, Erin would face adult penalties, including life imprisonment without parole, with the exception that a juvenile cannot be sentenced to death even if they are classified as an adult. And let me just say, I can't imagine having to be the person informing the victim of this crime who also happened to be the parent of the suspect about this situation. So Lisa brought all of the relevant documents and pictures, and they went through everything together. She showed him photos of the suitcase that Erin had packed and the lockbox. She showed him the statement from a friend of Erin's about how Erin wanted them to be killed. She also told Terry about how Erin and Charlie had sex after the murders. And while Lisa was telling this poor man all of these horrific details, and the picture was all coming together for him, he just sat there and sobbed. But even after seeing every last piece of evidence, he still continued to visit his daughter, and even stood by her at every court appearance, holding her hand. Many were puzzled by Terry's unwavering loyalty, but others, particularly in the Miracle Faith Baptist community, viewed it as a manifestation of unconditional love as told by Scripture. Terry particularly found comfort in a verse from the book of Romans, chapter 11, which stated, "Bless those who persecute you." This verse ultimately guided his desire to see his family's murderers avoid the death penalty. Even writing to the Rains County District Attorney, "My heart tells me there have been enough deaths. I want them in this lifetime to have a chance for remorse and to come to a place of repentance for what they have done. Killing them will not bring my family back."
Songs on Blue at home now.
Are you ready to sing?
Critics and audiences are raving. It's fantastically entertaining.
It's good. So good.
Powerhouse performances from Hugh Jackman and Kate Hudson.
Tell me I'm doing the right thing.
You are. Songs on Blue. Buy your rent today.
Result of Terry's wishes, and after consulting with to forego the death penalty. In November, all of them entered guilty pleas for 3 counts of capital murder. During the January sentencing hearing, Terry stood up to address the defendants. He spoke to Wade first, who showed no emotion, then turned to Charlie, who had tears in his eyes. He said, "Charlie Wilkinson, I want to say to you today that I forgive you. Not so much for your sake, but for my own. I refuse to grow into a bitter old man. If I want to heal and move on, I must find some forgiveness in my heart. And that has been the hardest thing that I have ever had to do because you took so much from me. Bobby Johnson pled guilty to being an accomplice who did not use a weapon and was sentenced to 40 years in prison. However, she is eligible for parole in March of 2028, a stiff price for being in love and willing to do anything for your boyfriend. Charlie and Wade both pled guilty and were sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of
As
parole.
they should.
Eventually, Erin agreed to a plea
As
agreement
they
which consisted of
should.
2 life sentences to be served simultaneously and an additional 25 years. With good conduct, she will become eligible for parole when she reaches the age of 59. After the sentencing, Terry moved into a little brick house in Wills Point, which is located approximately 30 miles southwest of Alba. His home is just a few miles from the cemetery, where his wife Penny and his 2 sons are buried. In April 2009, he was ordained as a minister and often delivered his testimony at various churches on weekends, using his family's tragedy as an example of the power of forgiveness. Now, something that came as a major surprise to many of his friends is that Terry actually married 7 months later. Sonia Webb was a single mother raising 2 sons and working as a home health aide, and they hit it off. After meeting at work, they went to lunch together in June 2008 and found that they had a lot in common, never running out of things to discuss. However, this marriage ended in divorce. Terry stated that he was just trying to move on too quickly. He later remarried again and eventually had another child with his newest wife, Karen. It's recently come out that Terry and Karen are second cousins, which is technically legal in the US, although it is very rare. Terry's twice weekly visits turned into once a month as he drove 3 hours to visit Erin while she was incarcerated in Gatesville. He stated that he just wanted to make sure that she had something to live for. Erin eventually admitted to both her father and the investigators that she did know about the murders ahead of time. But she said that Charlie, he was the real mastermind behind all of it, stating that she had intended to run away on the night of the murders, but then changed her mind. She claimed that the phone calls were made to prevent Charlie from coming to the house. According to Erin, it was Charlie who wanted the family dead, and she had been unable to stop him when he arrived. But she told a different story to Israel Lewis, the defense team's mental
So
health
in other words,
counselor.
she a
During
liar.
her conversation with Lewis, Erin claimed that Charlie had a tendency to be violent and had taken her family's lives after she ended their relationship and decided to blame her for orchestrating it all. Israel told reporters that he has worked with some good liars, but Erin was one of the best. She seemed totally sincere and genuine, and that he would have put his license on the line to say that she was telling the truth. She spoke with tears in her eyes, saying, "God will save me, he knows I'm innocent." And Israel isn't the only professional who felt duped by Erin's lies. Jordan Rayner, a counselor in the Texas prison system, also recently shared her experience working with Erin.
And this weekend, as I'm working with her, I had never met her before and I had not heard her story, and so she was able to take me for a ride, basically telling me the version of the story that she wanted me to hear. And what I didn't know is that she is a psychopath. And she was getting sick pleasure out of toying with me, watching my emotional responses, and just seeing what she could get away with. And I was totally sucked in. I totally was buying everything she was telling me. And I felt pretty safe around her because she was a small, petite person. But the moment that everything in the room changed, she really wasn't even looking at me. She was just kind of looking down and talking real soft like this. And all of a sudden, she just does this. And y'all, when she looked up at me that way, there was a black darkness in her eyes that I had never seen in anybody before, and it scared the shit out of me. I suddenly felt extremely vulnerable, like I was in a predatory environment, and I was not safe.
Recolamex Throat Care, a liquid center with powerful Okay, I want to share something with you really quickly that I've genuinely been loving since the moment I tried it. And yes, this segment is also sponsored by them, and it is Jones Road Beauty. You may have heard of them, right? Now, if you've ever felt like your makeup just looks like heavy or cakey, or if you're like me, it just takes way, way, way too long in the morning, same. That's why I'm kind of obsessed with Jones Road, especially their Miracle Balm, because it's one of those rare products that actually makes your skin look better instead of like trying to cover up the disaster underneath, which is not a disaster, but when you feel that way and you just want to like look your best. I personally, I'm just going to say it, I use it with my fingers. No brushes, no complicated routine, and it gives this healthy, natural glow in under a minute. You can use it as a blush, a highlight, a lip tint. It honestly replaces multiple different steps, which that is perfect for busy mornings, for traveling, for even just throwing it on after a workout. So it's modern day makeup that is clean, strategic, and multifunctional for effortless routines. And for a very limited time, our listeners are getting a free cool gloss on their purchase when they go and use code 10 to life at checkout. Just head to jonesroadbeauty.com and use code 10 to life at checkout. After your purchase, they will also ask you where you heard about them, so please support our show and let them know we sent you. Again, that is jonesroadbeauty.com, code 10 to life. In more recent interviews, though Erin's story has changed again, she's finally admitted that she hasn't been telling the truth about her involvement in the murders, and that she had more to do with the murders than she originally said. And heartbreakingly, she even admitted.
I don't mean to bring sarcasm into the room, but duh, we can tell you're a liar.
That she knew that her parents would die. She knew that her sweet younger brothers would die as well, and she could have she chose not to. She didn't.
You have told so many different stories and theories here, none of which comport with the facts. You told the police what I read to you here. That was a lie, right? You told your father the story. You told one of your counselors a completely different story, right? Is you were kidnapped. But that was a lie, right? And I know you haven't talked to Charlie since this happened, correct? And you haven't talked to Charles Wade. And you haven't talked to Bobby. You haven't talked to anybody. But the police have talked to everybody. And they are all telling exactly the same story, even though they were interviewed independently. They all tell the same story, and then you tell a different one. And you haven't told the truth yet, have you? You finally said, okay, go kill my parents, my mother and my father, the woman that brought me into the world, the people that have fed me and clothed me and housed me and loved me every day of my life. Sure, go kill them.
Sure.
What did they do that was so bad that you for them to be killed?
Nothing.
Did you think about the next morning my parents will be dead? You had two little brothers in the house. What was going to happen with them?
Yeah, what was going to happen?
I didn't really think about that too much.
Did you think they were going to be killed?
And that's a problem. You weren't thinking. You were being impulsive.
Close my mind. Yes.
Were you the motivating force behind this happening? If not the motivating force, a motivating force.
I probably added fuel to the fire.
You wanted them dead.
Introducing our biggest GMC Acadia ever. Offering bigger screens.
Tell me what you're thinking.
I wasn't thinking that night. I mean, I wasn't like mad at them or anything like that. It just felt like it happened.
You got tired of them bickering and said, just do it. Is that true? Sorry? You gave the command, just do it.
Do you accept that your family would still all be alive if you had wanted them to be alive? In other words, you could have stopped us at any time.
Yes, oh
You accept that?
yes.
But that in itself must be a terrible burden on you. But you never chose to take that choice, that option.
And you don't have to take Erin's word for it, because another of her ex-boyfriends came forward and said that Erin actually tried to get kids well before Charlie was even in the picture.
What the hell?
Here we've learned that you and Erin
dated at one time? What caused the breakup?
Her mom and dad didn't want me seeing her.
Now, as I ask questions, if I ask a direct or hard question, I need a grown-up man's response, okay, to help solve what truly happened that night.
I'm gonna tell you the truth.
Okay.
And she told me that she was gonna hire somebody to go out there and kill her parents.
Why was she wanting to have somebody go out to the house and kill the parents?
Because she told me that every time she gets a boyfriend that she really likes, my mom and dad tries to break them up.
Despite all the evidence against Erin, I mean, the phone calls, the statements from the ex-boyfriend, her all but admitting it, her dad, Terry, still holds firm in his belief that his daughter could have never masterminded such a horrible crime.
But looking back now, I honestly believe that she was not the mastermind. And I'm not saying that out of denial because it's my daughter, but I don't believe my daughter's evil. And I don't believe that she was the driving force. She was a contributor, yes. But you gotta understand, this was a vulnerable 16-year-old girl. This is this controlling psychopath, sociopath guy. You mix that together, this is what you ended up with.
In fact, Terry is so convinced that Erin's not the mastermind that he said that his only goal now is to see her released from prison. Her father will be in his 80s by the time she's released and says that his prayer is that he will live long enough, saying, I want to go. I want to go get Erin. I want us to walk away arm in arm and never look back. Now, I do have to wonder if part of Terry's belief about his daughter's innocence is him kind of protecting himself. I mean, after losing his wife and his 2 other children, Erin was all that he had left. So maybe he feels like acknowledging the full extent of her role in this crime would be like losing her in a sense as well. I mean, I can definitely see how that would just be too much for any father to bear. This story is just heartbreaking all around.
It's heartbreaking and senseless.
Matthew and Tyler, whose lives were taken way too soon, and for Terry, who has to live without his entire family every single day. I hope by hearing this story, it will be a reminder, especially for teenagers and young adults, that no matter how strict your parents are or how heated you feel in the moment, killing them is never the answer.
Hell
If
no.
your boyfriend or girlfriend or whoever is trying to get you to kill their parents, nope, nada, full stop. It is time to get out of that relationship. You're going to kill innocent people. You're probably going to end up landing in jail as well. It is not worth it. There is no world in which it is worth it. Take a beat and just get out of that relationship and get out of that situation. This is one of the wilder cases that we have covered.
Crazy.
It really does show,
Crazy.
in my opinion, a pretty big testament to forgiveness and the power of love. I don't know that I would be that forgiving, but thank God I've never been in a situation like that where I've had to decide to be that forgiving or not. But I am curious to know what you think about all of this. Do you think that Erin is truly a diabolical teenager and had intentions from the very start?
I got a feeling she's a sociopath.
As we heard, or do you think that she's misunderstood? She was taken advantage of by these guys and that she never would have been the mastermind behind all of this? And what do you make of her dad, Terry, forgiving her? Let me know in the comments. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of 10 to Life Reopened It.
With that being said, I thank y'all for being here. Like, share, subscribe. And please, I'm being serious, please, don't go outside unless you really, really have no choice. With the way that these temperatures are, you can seriously die out here. Okay? Use your common sense. Stay warm. Thank you. Like, share, subscribe. See y'all later. Peace.